What's going on, guys? Mad Lab here. You are in the Mad Lab's main event breakdown, brought to you by the Mayo Media Network. Once again, this will be the last video that you will see with this background, with this camera, and with me in New Jersey. I'm going back finally to Orange County, California, late tonight. I will leave here probably around 5 a.m. to get there at the airport at 7:30. My flight leaves. I land in California at 10:30 a.m. West Coast time. I'll be back in time for my live stream and the fight with my partner, who I haven't seen in a couple of weeks. But we've been working like this just with the situation at hand. It's been a rough couple of weeks for the lab. So, this is a really good card. It's a very interesting card from all angles, from a betting perspective, from a DFS perspective, and just from the card in general. The matchmaking on this was superior. I mean, just such good matchmaking. You don't see cards like this very often. You'll see a card where it's very top heavy, and all of a sudden it starts dwindling down. Every fight on this card is extremely, extremely live and extremely well matched. When you look at this main event, it's kind of comical because you have Chandler and Oliveira. You got Oliveira, who's on an absolute tear. And then you have Michael Chandler, who's kind of new, and everyone's like, well, why is he getting his shot? Why is he getting his shot? And the funny thing about it is when Michael Chandler came in against Dan Hooker, I believe we were in Palm Desert watching the fight, me and Anthony, and everybody was all over Dan Hooker. It was Dan Hooker. And I listened to people talk, and people were telling me, Dan, and I kept quiet because if I'm on the other way and everybody's one way, like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and that's for my subscribers. But I was listening to their rhymes and reasons behind them, and nothing made sense. But now that he beat Dan Hooker handedly. Now everybody all of a sudden is on Michael Chandler. He's a good fighter. This and that, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just blows my mind that people think, analysts, touts, fans, they think that the UFC is MMA. You know what I mean? Like, they think that's it. When you think of MMA, you think of the UFC. There are other companies out there, guys. This is a guy who I've been watching for a very long time. He could have competed in a UFC years ago. This is a guy who, honestly, is he in great shape right now? Yes. Is he in his absolute prime? Probably not. He's been fighting for a long time. But the guy's a tremendous athlete, tremendous wrestler, two-time belt holder in Bellator. I was at the fight where he lost it to Brett Primus. He ended up getting some kind of a dead leg. His ankle kept rolling. It kept rolling. And I knew right there, I don't care if you're a bad fighter or a good fighter, if you got a guy whose ankle just keeps rolling, he has no stability on it, you're going to beat him. So he ends up losing the belt there. He ends up coming back, winning the belt back. Then he loses the belt by knockout. But that knockout, if you really watch it, was a little questionable. I think they stopped it a little bit too early. I think he did get dropped. I don't think he was dropped to the point where he didn't know where he was. He kind of turtled up. By the time he popped back up, the fight was stopped. I think it was stopped a little prematurely. But this is a guy who is just a tremendous athlete, a tremendous wrestler, tremendous grappling, very good power, compact in size, explosive, fast, very cerebral in the cage, very good for the sport, very marketable. And everybody just overlooked him against Dan Hooker, and it was just mind-blowing to me. It was literally mind-blowing to me. So here he is, and does he deserve this shot? Yes, he does, because when you build up a resume like he has, it's not about, a proving ground at that point. The guy was a champion. The guy has fought some great competition. The guy has been there. The guy has done that. So when you look at, does he deserve it? Yeah, he does deserve it. Sometimes you have situations where you will just step in and you will get an opportunity. And the guy's done everything that the company has asked him. He came in and he weighed in as an alternate. He's never said no yet. He will fight anybody, at any time. There was a question zooming around that he said no to the Ferguson fight. Don't know if that's true. Ferguson claims it is. Chandler claims it isn't. But the guy has done everything that the UFC asked him. He's a company guy, and now he's getting his shot. Does Charles Oliveira deserve this shot? 1,000% he deserves this shot. He's deserved this shot for a while. But how do I see this fight going down? First of all, let's look at the DraftKings prices. I think they're kind of insane, if you ask me. 8,700 Oliveira, Chandler 7,500. Obviously, we don't have a big current market value to go off of Chandler because he is debuting. But if you want to just run it, 100 plus points, 1 of 1. He hit his current market value of 7,500, 1 of 1. You look at Oliveira, 8,700. He hit 100 plus points, 3 of 10. He hit his current market value, 8 of 10. So he's hit the 8,700 point benchmark 8 of 10 times. That's 80%. That's, it's something you really, look in on, because that's your chances right now. 80% of him hitting 8,700. So when you look at the paths to victory here, what do you have to do? Well, you got to go through the entire history of Oliveira to really understand what kind of fighter he is. This is a guy who's got an extremely good grappling. His striking has come an extremely long way. He's got 2, people look at him like, well, he's not only a grappler now, he's got striking because he's got 2 knockouts recently. But if you look at his knockouts, if you look at those 2 knockouts, after that, before that, I should say, he's only has his last knockout was in 2014. So the guy, it's not like the guy's going to sit there and he's not going to be a knockout artist. You know what I mean? He's a guy who, if the knockout is there and it presents himself, he will take advantage of it. But he's not a guy who's looking for the knockout. The guy's looking for a submission. He's looking to get you in a position where he can snatch something up, snatch up a neck. If you get sloppy, that's just what he does. So what I want to do real quick is I want to go through a couple of his wins on his win streak for you and just kind of decipher what kind of fighters that he beats and what kind of fighters that can beat him. So if you look at his last fight, obviously it was Tony Ferguson. He ran roughshod on Tony Ferguson, but what kind of Tony Ferguson are we going to get? I've never thought I would see a day where Tony Ferguson would lose 2 straight the way he did. So he beats Tony Ferguson by decision, but very decisively. Kevin Lee, he beats Kevin Lee by submission, by guillotine choke. Kevin Lee is a good athlete. His gas tank is extremely questionable, and he's a guy who tends to run himself into submissions. Okay, so if you look at Kevin Lee, this is a guy who has lost 6 times. He's been submitted 3 times. So right there, you could see he is susceptible, to submissions. If you look at Jared Gordon, he knocked out Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon is a guy who can be knocked out. He lost 4 times. He's been knocked out 4 times. When you look at Nick Lentz was KO'd by him. Nick Lentz is way out of his prime. You look at David Tamer, submitted. The guy is a strict striker, has 0 grappling. You look at Jim Miller. Jim Miller beat him when Jim Miller was in his prime, and now he comes back and beats Jim Miller at a time where he couldn't dial in what was going on with his body. He was out of his prime. He was trying to figure out this whole Lyme disease thing, so he ends up beating Jim Miller. Christos Giagos, high-pressure fighter, good wrestler, but this is a guy who's extremely raw and just is not on his level. Clay Guida, another guy he beats. Clay Guida, very high motor, good wrestling, but 20 losses, 10 of them by submission. He runs his way into submissions. So, you got to look at the styles of people that he's been beating. Very good fighters, but he exposes a certain element of their game that has shown a historical landscape of them losing that way. And that could be a very cerebral part of his game. That could be something that he really looks into and says, this is what I'm going to try to expose. And, fair play to him. But there are these holes. He is beating these fighters that do have these glaring holes and these glaring ways that they're losing. How does he lose? This is a guy who I've seen him break on numerous occasions. I've seen this guy really, really just break. You can break him. You can, break his will, per se. All you got to do is really put the pressure on him. If you put the pressure on him, he will fold. And this is just a fact. He did it with Paul Felder. Paul Felder sat there and, literally got on top of him and put it on him, and he shelled up like a turtle. This is just, this isn't me giving an opinion. This is facts. I've seen him actually quit in the cage. Now, when you go back to Michael Chandler, you say, okay, well, how does Michael Chandler win this fight? How does he avoid submissions? Well, this is a guy who in 27 fights, he's never been submitted. He's never been submitted. This is a guy who's grappled and fought some extremely high pedigree guys, very, very explosive on the feet. He's going to be shorter to the ground. He's faster. He has a lot more power, and he's going to hunt. He's going to put Oliveira on the back foot. It's just what he does. He did it with Dan Hooker, and he's going to do it with Oliveira. The thing that he's got to watch out for is he's really, really mind his P's and Q's when he's taking the shot or when he's going to get to transitions, because that's what Oliveira's going to look at. He's going to look at for when he's dry. When they're dry, he's going to look to jump on a guillotine. He's going to look for the neck. He's going to look for an arm. He's going to look to catch Chandler in submission. But Chandler is very, very cerebral himself. He's very intelligent. He knows what he has to do. He's got very good weight distribution, very good wrestling. And this is a guy who is going to be very mindful of what he's doing on the ground. I see this being a very, very close fight. I do. I see this being a very close fight. I think that they both have their paths to win. I just think that Chandler has the style that can break him. I really do. I think that Chandler has a style that can break him. And I think Vegas has this wrong. I think that Chandler should be the favorite. I don't think Oliveira carries that power that's going to knock him out. I don't think he's going to have to worry about that. I think Oliveira has to worry about his power. And I don't care if he's never been submitted before. You have to watch Charles Oliveira, because if somebody's going to submit you, it's going to be him. He's done it multitude occasions. He will just catch you and he will submit you. He's very crafty on the ground. I just don't see, if you look at the percentage in 27 fights, he's never been submitted. The chances of him getting submitted by Oliveira are a lot lower than a lot of these guys Oliveira has been fighting. In a 5-round fight, I just think as this fight goes on, I think Oliveira is going to see, DeBronx is going to see as the fight goes on, a lot of these things aren't working. Could be a close fight, but, I can't get that arm. I can't get his neck. There's certain things that aren't working. He's still backing me up. And I think that's slowly going to break him. I think there possibly is going to be a finish in this fight. I think there's a very high upside that there's a finish in this fight. But which way is it going to go? I don't think that Chandler's going to submit him. I find it hard to believe that, Chandler's going to, unless he's super gassed at the end. I think he's got a better chance to finish maybe a ground and pound or a knockout, and obviously Charles Oliveira on the other side with a submission. But I do think Chandler wins this fight. Like I said, I think the DraftKings price should be flipped a little bit closer as well, and I think that the line should be flipped. So when you're looking at this with Michael Chandler at 7,500, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have company. You're going to have company with a lot of the people that you're picking on this card. So you kind of want to be different here. A lot of these people take the same exact cookie cutter approach. I am taking a completely different approach, which I put in my over an hour-long podcast to my subscribers, because this is how you win GPP tournaments. If you're going to take the same cookie cutter approach as everybody else and throw in your dogs and then do this, and you're just going to either have a tie, you're going to be at the top branch with a bunch of people, or you are going to lose with everybody else. So I'd rather lose in a small quantified section of people that have the balls to do what I'm actually going to do this week than go into a big group of people and say, you know what, this is the chalk, this is what everyone's playing, these are all the dogs that people are playing, and let's see what happens. Sometimes you got to take stances, and sometimes you got to just run with your gut. And this is a little bit new kind of a setup that I'm doing for this card that I'm standing firm with. So if you do want to check it out, come over to the madlabmma.com. We have a special that we're running, $29.99 for the next 30 days. Which is less than $10 a card. I mean, that's crazy. With all the content you're getting, the full breakdowns, DFS, wagers, live stream, podcast, Discord, fighter metrics that we just threw in that's new. You get the fighter metrics for every single fighter, from soup to nuts, just everything. The private pod, everything we have, you're going to get for 30 days, $29.99. I believe this expires on Saturday, so definitely the madlabmma.com. Jump in and give us a try. When you look at the price here, you got $8,700 for Oliveira, and you can't ignore that, right? When I just got done telling you his current market value hitting at 80% clip, you can't ignore that. This is a guy who absolutely can win this fight. So you do want to have shares of him. Michael Chandler on the other side, you got to go for the value. When you're looking at these bets and you're looking at these DraftKings, prices, sometimes you're not always looking at the fighter that's going to win. You're looking at the value. What kind of value am I getting for him? And Chandler is intense and crazy value at 7,500. 5-round fight against a guy he's going to have to motor against. He can't sit back and let Charles Oliveira dictate this pace. That's the way he wins. He knows he needs to push forward. He needs to stalk him, mirror him, trail him, and just get on top of him and don't give him room. So that he's going to be active for as long as this lasts. So, Chandler wins, he easily covers value. That's my opinion. So my hedge weight on this, believe it or not, is I'm going to go a little bit heavier on Chandler. I'm going to go 7-3. Those of you that don't know my hedge weights are, You can go check. You'll see that on the site. I have my own system with hedge weights on a percentage sliding scale. So my hedge weight on this is going to be 7-3 Chandler. As far as the wagering aspect of this, there's just way too much value in passing up Michael Chandler at plus money. So I do have a bet on Chandler, and I think you should as well. I think he's a very good bet. I think it's a value bet. I think this line should be flipped. So I was not passing it up. I don't know what it's going to close at. It might close even money. It might close, Michael Chandler minus money. But if it ends up dipping even more, I will probably hit it again. So I will be taking Michael Chandler in this fight. I think this is his fight to win as long as he stays safe. I hope you guys have a fantastic Saturday. Enjoy watching the fights, and I hope you guys cash. I'll talk to you soon.